In a small town known as Providence, a couple had just moved into their new home, expecting their firstborn child. Willie, the new district police officer, had just been assigned to the area. On his first day, Captain N introduced him to Terry, his new partner with over 16 years of experience in the police force. She leaves the men to get to know each other. Terry noticed Willie's red eye and hoped it wasn't contagious before they headed into town for their police duty. Terry did most of the talking, boasting about being a badass cop who got away with things without paying a dime. They stopped at a store, grabbed a coffee without paying just to prove his point, and then drove to Terry's girlfriend's house. Terry asked Willie to wait in the car and keep an eye out for the husband, who was unaware of Terry's affair with his wife. Back in the house, Terry's wife, without minding her pregnancy, she keeps decorating the house without the help. She goes to a store to get groceries. There she finds a mysterious man. Curious, she asks the clerk what he was doing. The man simply tells her that the man is someone you call when you need anything done. As Terry spent hours doing the dirty with the married woman, Willie receives a radio call about an 11:15 situation in the area. He tried to call Terry, but just then, the husband arrived home, finding Willie at his door. The husband yelled at Willie, thinking he was the one having an affair with his wife. With no other option, Willie left in the car to attend to his duty. Upon arriving at the scene, Willie saw the door open and assumed it was a danger. He quickly pulled out his gun and entered the building. Unbeknownst to him, a woman was cooking with her headphones on, bending over to pick up some debris with a knife in her hand. Willie quickly turned and shot, missing the woman by a fraction. Angry at being shot at, she hits him severely before jumping on Willie, choking him out. As he was about to pass out, he fell to the ground, only to see the woman lying next to him in a pool of blood with a wooden piece lodged in the back of her head. Willie was shocked and didn't know what to do. Terry arrived, still happy from his encounter with the married woman, but noticed Willie's distress. Terry asked what was wrong, and Willie told him to check upstairs. Upon seeing the lifeless body, Terry became enraged and was about to call the station to report the incident. However, he remembered that he had been off duty, fornicating with a married woman at the time of the incident. Realizing this, he burst into frustration and kicked a nearby basket, revealing a large sum of money scattered on the floor. Terry quickly told Willie that they needed to cover their tracks and pretend nothing happened. The duo trashed the house to make it look like a break-in, and then drove to a roadside, pretending to be on duty. Officer Terry ended up booking a woman he had previously had an affair with for going 4 miles over the speed limit. As they received a call from their radio transmitter about the homicide, they drove to the scene, where they met Captain Ann and the husband of the deceased woman. The husband was clearly shaken and pleaded with the officers to find the murderer and make them suffer. He also revealed that his wife had a masseur who came to their home, suggesting that they start their investigation there. The duo gets to Terry's stash house, where he stored some of his belongings. He puts the money there and was about to lock it when Willie asked for the key lock code. Terry gave it to him, telling him that he could trust him, and they both promised not to tell anyone about the money. They agreed to share it once everything had blown over. That night, Willie returned home, feeling uncomfortable, and told his wife everything, but this time, pointing to Terry as the killer. She told her husband that she needed to meet Terry and get to know if he was someone they could trust. Meanwhile, at a bar, Captain Ann was approached by the woman Terry had issued a ticket to for speeding. The woman complained about Terry being a bad cop for giving her a ticket for going only 4 miles over the speed limit. Captain Ann apologized on his behalf and promised that it wouldn't happen again. As she took a look at the ticket, she noticed the time interval between the moment of the homicide and the time Terry issued the ticket and felt something was off. On the fateful day of the homicide, the police don't notice the masseur, who sees them carrying out the act and sneaks out through a window. As they interrogate him, he pretends like he knows nothing and only tells them he's a masseur to the deceased lady, stating that he only does her massage and performs for her amusement. Sensing that this guy is not capable of posing any threat and they couldn't pin the homicide case on him, they leave. Outside, Willie invites Terry for dinner that night. From the husband Chetlow's perspective, he returns home from work to find his wife lying in a pool of her own blood but doesn't react. It turns out that he's having an affair with his secretary and initially planned the death of his wife together with his girlfriend. A call comes in from the hitman who's to carry out the job, requesting that they meet. At the hitman's garage, he explains that when he got to the house, he found his wife dead but couldn't find the money. Angry, he thinks Mr. Chetlow must have called someone else to do the job. However, Mr. Chetlow denies, saying that he never called anyone and he's the only person he's been dealing with. The hitman says he has to pay him anyway, but Mr. Chetlow doesn't have the money to pay, so he gives him 48 hours or else he'd be laying next to his wife 6 feet underground. That evening, at the dinner, the partners exchange some words on policing. Terry explains the reason why he became a police officer, that during his childhood, he was always bullied, so growing up, he decided to become the law so he could punish bullies. Willie's wife, Paige, tells him about how a relative who's a police officer used to collect bribes and engage in corrupt practices. At that moment, Terry realizes that Willie had broken his trust by revealing the truth to his wife. Terry is about to leave when the whining of a dog is heard outside. The couple rushes outside to check only to find their dog lying dead on the floor. Paige cries bitterly. The next day, at the police station, Terry apologizes to Willie about the previous night and hopes that doesn't stop them from becoming friends. At the office of the captain, she tells the two men about the evidence found on the crime scene, saying that the deceased happened to have a huge life insurance policy coupled with the infidelity of her husband, so the duo needs to do some digging on the man's lifestyle to find something incriminating. While in the cemetery, mourning her dead son, the captain receives a tip-off about the two officers, Terry and Willie. The investigation obviously shows the prints of the officers all around the place. Next, he questions the duo about it, and they lie that before the incident, they were in her house for a cup of coffee and left afterwards, only to hear about the news of the death. On the other side, terrified Paige, Willie's wife, goes to a store where she gets her groceries and takes the number of a hitman she meets with him at a coffee shop. She requests that Terry be killed before something bad happens to her husband. In order to pay for the huge sum of money that it takes to kill a police officer, pregnant Paige goes to the Starch house where the money is kept. She's able to open it because her husband gave her the code and takes all the money. She takes some of it and pays the hitman through a mailbox written The Irishman. Chetlow is terrified about dying since he can't afford to provide $1 million as requested by the hitman, so he contemplates selling his house and boats to pay off. Deborah tries reasoning with him, saying that probably the masseur made his way with the money since he's the only one with access to the house, and also, they both think he's having an affair with the wife. Terry gets home that evening and he is attacked. He struggles and fights back. He's almost choked to death when his lover shoots at the killer, and Terry quickly ties a rope to his leg, pushing the anchor down the river to drown the hitman. Meanwhile, Willie couldn't sleep because of his suspicions, seeing the masseur getting some handy tools from the store the previous day. He drives to the masseur's house just to observe him trying to leave with his mom. At that moment, Chetlow approaches the masseur, and an argument ensues. Chetlow pulls out a gun and threatens to shoot, but the masseur's mom is quick to shoot, killing Chetlow at the spot. Deborah immediately pulls out a gun, killing the masseur and his mom, as Willie watches in amusement. He leaves the scene, unknown to him that he's being followed. Willie gets to Terry's house to share the massacre he just witnessed, but finds him bleeding all over. Terry points a gun at him, threatening to shoot him, because someone just tried to kill him earlier and thinks it was Willie's doing. Willie gets scared and tells him to put the gun away, explaining to him the massacre he just witnessed, saying that they're finally free and they can now share the money. Terry doesn't care about any of that and still holds him at gunpoint, telling him to drive to the stash house. Meanwhile, Captain Murphy watches the men through her computer and wonders what they were up to, so she decides to track them. Upon reaching the stash house, Terry tells Willie to open the container, seeing that the money is gone. Willie looks confused, telling him he'd never been there since the first time they came. However, Terry believes that it must have been his wife. He reveals that he intentionally killed their dog to warn his wife not to mess with him, but unfortunately, she can't take a warning. He tells him to call her and ask about the money, putting the phone on speaker. During the conversation, Paige confesses that she took the money to protect him from Terry because Terry is the one that killed Mr. Chetlow's wife. Upon learning that Willie lied about him being the killer, he shoots Officer Willie, killing him at the spot. Meanwhile, Captain Murphy makes it to the scene, only to find the corpse. On the other side, Paige is about to run out of town with the money when she receives a call from Captain Murphy. She asks her to come clean about the whole situation. She tells Captain Murphy that Terry killed Mr. Chetlow's wife. Willie found out and that's why he killed him. Captain Murphy immediately puts out a radio message telling all the police officers on duty to be on the lookout for Officer Terry and to consider him armed and dangerous, and everyone should proceed with caution, laying him out as a wanted criminal. By this time, Terry is clearly enraged because he can hear the transmitted message. There is heavy traffic that evening. Terry is able to find Paige easily. She manages to escape by hitting him with the car door. He shoots at her several times, but she manages to escape without a scratch. Her condition is worsening, and she runs through the traffic as Terry pursues her. She stops to run because of her condition and awaits her fate. At that moment Terry tells her that he wasn't the killer, but her husband. She doesn't believe him. Captain Murphy points a gun at Terry, asking him to drop his weapon, but he keeps talking. Captain Murphy had no choice and shoots him, killing him at the spot. Paige has given birth and is resting in the hospital bed. She wakes up to find Captain Murphy and she asks her to tell her the truth about the whole situation. but she denies knowing much. At that moment, the hitman disguises himself as a hospital cleaner and enters the room. Seeing the two talkie leaves, Captain Murphy begs Paige once more to say the truth for the sake of her son, but she insists, and Captain Murphy leaves the room to bring her child. The hitman uses the opportunity to finish off Paige and takes the money. Getting into the elevator, a mysterious lady joins him. It turns out that it's Deborah. The elevator door opens behind Captain Murphy, revealing the two people lying dead on the floor with the money sprayed all over the elevator. Before the end of the movie, it turns out that Captain Murphy adopted Willie's child and is now taking care of him. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe for more.